Dear students, today I'm not going to continue with the chapter The Enemy because very fast your pre-midterm examination is approaching and your very first paper is English. So because of that reason, I thought that why not have a quick revision of the three chapters which I have said to you will be coming in the examination. I know physically being present and taking revision is a different matter, but still, I'll try my level best to make you feel comfortable with the chapters. And in this, I'll be reading out the chapter as well as I will tell you about what we people are going to learn out of those paragraphs. With regard to your sample paper, you will be getting very soon your practice paper, which will be comprised of only 5 questions in the MCQ pattern. So that is only for you to get a rough idea of how the forthcoming exams question paper will be like. Otherwise, as I have been requesting you people that basically it will be from anywhere, from the question answers, maybe from between the books, anything. So you have to be very thorough with the lesson. So let's begin with the very first lesson of your Flamingo, that is the last lesson written by Alphonse Daudet. About Alphonse Daudet, I'm not going to read out that para, which is an introductory paragraph about the author. You may please do it on your own. Let's come to the lesson straight away. I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of a scolding, especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participles and I did not know the first word about them. For a moment I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. It was so warm, so bright, the birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back of the sawmill the Prussian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rule for participles. But I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. Remember, in this chapter, it has been written by Alphonse Daudet when the France-Prussian War broke out. In this story, I is France, a boy. And morning when he gets up, he is late for the school, and that's why he hurries because he is frightened of getting scolding from his French teacher. His French teacher is M. Hamel. The name of his French teacher is M. Hamel. And his French teacher has given them, not him only, other students also, some homework regarding participles, rules of participles. And he knows nothing about it. So he was frightened and didn't feel like going to school. And moreover, many things were there outside which were very tempting. Like the day seems to be very warm and bright. The birds, they were making noise at the edge of the woods here means jungle. And the Prussian soldiers, the France, this particular district where he is staying, this boy France is staying, his name is Franz. Okay, I'm not talking about France, I'm talking about France. And this boy, the district in which he is staying, it has already been conquered by the Prussians, the now Germans, and the Prussian soldiers, they were drilling on an open field somewhere back of the sawmill. So the birds tripping in the woods, then the warm bright morning, then the Prussian soldiers drilling at the back of the sawmill. Everything was very tempting for him to stay back rather than going to the school and get scolding from M. Hamel, his French teacher. But somehow he resisted everything and he made his move to go to school. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer, and I thought to myself, without stopping, what can be the matter now? Near the town hall, I told you in the previous videos also, the town hall is a kind of a community hall where various kinds of functions and all gatherings and all take place. So when he reached near that, he saw that a big crowd was standing near the bulletin board, a board in which is used for displaying informations. And For according to France, from since last 2 years, they had been receiving all kind of news through that bulletin board, maximum bad ones. Even the uh, you can say the loss of the battle also, and the country or the district going into the hands of the Germans also came through that bulletin board. So he was just pondering over that what may be the news that everyone is crowded around, but then he didn't stop. Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could, the blacksmith watcher was there with his apprentice, reading the bulletin. Called after me, "Don't go so fast, Bub. You will get to here soon in plenty of time." While he just overlooked all those things, or he ignored that, and he was moving fast, suddenly a blacksmith, you might be knowing, I told you blacksmith means the person who deals with what, the iron materials and all, okay, and who makes the iron objects. He was standing there with an apprentice, with his apprentice here can be an assistant also. It can be mentioned, this can be used for mentioning about that person who is just a learner and is learning under the guidance of another experienced person. So he was standing with his apprentice and he was reading the bulletin. He said to Franz, "Bub." Bub here means boy. He said, "Bub, no need to hurry up. We are having plenty of time to reach school." He didn't understand. I thought he was making fun of me, and reached M. Hamel's little garden all out of breath. He hurried up. He thought that he's making fun, so he paid no attention, and he just ran as fast as he could to reach to M. Hamel's garden. Here, garden by, because school is having a garden made by M. Hamel. Usually, when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street, the opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison, very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. But now it was all so still. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen, but of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window, I saw my classmates, already in their places, and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. This particular paragraph is telling about the school scene. Okay, generally the school is used to have a lot of noise coming out from there. Great hustle bustle means a lot of noise used to come out from the school, which could be heard at the end of the street. But today everything was very quiet, and the regular noises like reading of the lesson in unison means like how one says and others repeats after them, after that person, that's unison. And then the opening and the closing of the drawers, and then the wrapping of the ruler, the scale in the hand of the teacher on the table, and these all things could be heard so clearly, but everything was so quiet, so still. And he thought that he can make use of that noise, that commotion, that you can say that hustle bustle, and he will just get into his place. But the scene was totally different. Everything was quite like Sunday morning. And then when he went near the window and looked in, he saw that the classmates were all seated in their place, and M. Hamel was moving to and fro with the ruler under his arm. And now he don't have any other option, but then he has to go and stand at the threshold and ask permission to get in. And he says he blushed. He felt shy and frightened too. But nothing happened. M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning without you." Okay, it was really surprising that M. Hamel didn't scold him. Instead, he said lovingly, "We were just about to begin. Come on in, Franz." I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Besides, this whole school seemed so strange and solemn. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the back benches that were always empty, the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hosser with three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others besides. Everybody looked sad, and Hosser had brought an old primer thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees, with his great spectacles lying across the pages. Okay, in this paragraph, Franz, after he settled down and he had taken over his breath, he was a little calmer. After that, he just looked around and he found that, to his surprise, M. Hamel was wearing a dress which he generally wears only on inspection days. So he was little surprised, and moreover, he felt that the atmosphere of the school seemed very strange. I mean to say, अजीब सा था and solemn, very sad type of, उदासी से भरा हुआ. And then the strangest part was, the surprising part was, the back benches, which generally used to lie empty, were occupied, by the village elders, elderly people of the village. They were sitting there quietly. Old Hauser was there, and then postmaster was there, mayor was there, many more were there. The old Hauser, he brought one primer. If you remember, I told you what a primer is. Primer means a book for the beginners, and it was all thumbed at the edges. Thumbed at the edges means, because it gone very old, it has got turned, means folded up at the corners. And then he was keeping that book over his knees, and over the open pages of the book his spectacles were lying down. While I was wondering about it all, M. Hamel mounted his chair, and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alaska and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive." What a thunderclap these words were to me. Oh, the wretches! That was what they had put up at the town hall. Okay, while he was just thinking about what's going on, and Hamel sat down on the mounted his chair. Means he just went and sat down on his chair, and in a very gentle tone he said to the class that, "My dear class, this is the last lesson of French, because from tomorrow onwards German language will be taught, because the order has come from Berlin regarding the same." Now these words of M. Hamel was like a thunderclap, like as if though a loud thunder cracked there into the head of this Franz, and he understood why the crowd was standing in front of the bulletin board. My last French lesson? Why? I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn any more. I must stop there. Then, oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking birds' eggs, or going sliding on the Saar. My books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry, my grammar and my history of the saints, were old friends, now that I couldn't give up. And M. Hamel too, the idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Last class? Last lesson? That too of my mother tongue? Oh my God, this was something that Franz was finding it difficult to handle. And moreover, that child, he knew nothing about French language. Neither he knew how to read nor he knew how to write. And then he started regretting. He was filled with guilt that when time was there to learn, what he used to do, how he wasted it? He wasted it seeking birds' eggs or going sliding on the Saar. And the books that felt like a nuisance, trouble, burden to him, that seemed like as if though they were their old friends with whom he never wants to get parted. And M. Hamel, the idea that he will be, this fact that he will be leaving and going, and today is the last lesson, it made him realize that now M. Hamel no longer looked cranky to him or seemed cranky to him, and he was like, don't want M. Hamel to go away. Poor man. It was honor of this last lesson that it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. And now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry too, that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking our master for his 40 years of faithful service, and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. Now many things became clear in his head. he was first of all thinking why everything seems to be very strange today. So the first thing, why M. Hamel was wearing those good clothes, fine clothes, maybe as a mark of respect that it was his last day in the school. Why the last benches were occupied by the village elders? Two basic reasons. First of all, out of guilt and remorse, that why they never studied when time was there. Out of this guilt that now they are coming here to study that language which is now no longer theirs. And to give respect to that man who have given around some 40 years of his life to the that school. While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule for the participle all through, very loud and clear and without one mistake. But I got mixed up on the first words and stood there, holding on to my desk, my heart beating and not daring to look up. Okay, while he was thinking all those things, suddenly he heard his name being called out, and it was time for him to say the rules of participle. He felt he was ready to give anything that he had in his life just to say one rule of participle, because it meant a lot to him at that moment. And then he stood there because he don't know anything about the rules of participle. So he got just mixed up, confused, and he just stood over there silently holding the desk and his heart beating and filled with shame, guilt, embarrassment. I heard Mem Hamel say to me, I won't scold you, little Franz, you must feel bad enough. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, bah, I have plenty of time. I will learn it tomorrow. And now you see where we have come out. Ah, that's the great trouble with Alaska. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it you pretend to be Frenchman? And yet you can neither speak nor write your own language. But you are not the worst, poor little Franz. We have all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. Now here, when M. Hamel, he said, I have heard a lot. Means, M. Hamilton said that I have heard a lot. He felt what to tell to this child Franz. He said that I'm not going to scold you, Franz, because basically it is a problem with every one of us. We have been like postponing, procrastination it is called, procrastination, act of postponing. We people have got this bad habit of postponing everything for tomorrow. Oh yeah, we are having enough time, we will do it tomorrow and see where we have landed. The Germans have full right to conquer this place, this land, because what they will say, they'll say you call yourself French and you don't even know how to read and write French. So that's the thing. And then he say that we have got a lot, great deal to reproach ourselves, means to rectify, to correct ourselves. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or at the mills, so as to have a little more money. And I have been to blame also. Have I not often sent you to water my flowers instead of learning your lessons? And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? In this para, he speaks about the people responsible for this negligence in the negligence of study. First, he blamed definitely parents also. He said that parents are responsible because they are more interested in having more money rather than letting the children go to school for studying. And then he blamed himself also, because many a times it so happened that whenever he felt like going fishing, or he used to give holiday, or he used to ask children to water the plants of his garden. So in one way or the other, they all were responsible for it. Then from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. Because when a people are is enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. Then he opened a grammar and read us our lessons. I was amazed to see how well I understood it. All he said seemed so easy, so easy. I think too that I had never listened so carefully and that he had never explained everything with so much patience. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. Now the time has come for them to say goodbye to their language, to this language teacher. At that time, many things started rising up. And M. Hamel, he started talking about the French language, a very beautiful language, a very logical language. And he also requested to everyone that they should stick to their language because that is the only key to the prison of slavery, because it will bind them together, keep them united. And then he took out a grammar lesson, he taught them the lesson, and to Fran's amazement, basically he learned all the entire part very nicely. Though before that he never used to understand. He felt that from both the side it was like 100% given in understanding as well as in teaching. And then it felt like as if the M. Hamel wanted to teach them everything in one stretch itself. After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing that D.M. Hamel had new copies for us, written in a beautiful round hand, France, Alaska, France, Alaska. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the rod at the top of our desk. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was the scratching of the pens over the paper. Once some beetles flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them, not even the littlest ones, who worked right on tracing their fish hooks as if that was French too. On the roof of the pigeons cooed very low. And I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? Now, in this para after grammar, they did a little bit of writing work, and in this writing work, M. Hamel gave them new copies with beautifully written handwriting, France, Alaska, France, and it looked like as if though the words were just floating in the pages, and everyone got busy with writing, and there was pin drop silence with only the scratching of the pen over the paper. At one more moment, an insect also came inside, and when the insect came inside, no one paid attention, not even the small ones also, who were very busy doing their work in the copy. And then the pigeons outside in the window, they cooed, and a thought came into Fran's mind that whether the Germans will be able to enslave these pigeons and they will ask them to sing in German. Whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamel sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little school. Fancy, for 40 years he had been there in the same place with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him. Just like that. Only the desks and benches had been worn smooth, the walnut trees in the garden were taller, and the hop-vine that he had planted himself twined about the windows to the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all. Poor man. To hear his sister moving about in the room above, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. While they were writing down, in between, Franz lifted his head and looked at M. Hamel, and M. Hamel was just gazing at one particular. Like his eyes got fixed at one place, and it was like he was trying to click the pics of the place in his mind forever. And he started thinking this was the same classroom where he had spent years, and though the benches and desks had worn out with time, and trees have grown big, hopvine which he himself planted, that also have started climbing up through the window to the roof. And he started feeling that how broken this man might be feeling to leave a place where he had spent 40 years of his life, and his sister, who might be staying with him, was packing the trunk upstairs, which could be heard very clearly because they have to leave the country the very next day. But he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing, we had lesson in history, and then the babies chanted their Babi Bi Bobu. Down there at the back of the room, Allhauser had put on his spectacles and, holding his primer in both hands, spelled the letters with them. You could see that he too was crying. His voice trembled with emotion. It was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Ah, how well I remember it. that last lesson. That last lesson left an impression in the mind of this young Franz. He says that our teacher seemed to be very emotionally broken, and somehow he gathered his courage to hear everything of the last lesson. They stopped writing after the writing work. They had a lesson in history, and the children, they have been saying the words, the letters given over there in French, and the Hauser who brought the primer along with him, he also started repeating after that, and it was really a very you can't say a tragic scene, but it was a comic tragic type of a combo, because an old man, he's crying, and he's chanting the letters of the small kids. It was something that was very you can't say remarkable, but it will always reside there in the mind, this last lesson. That's what Franz said. All at once the church clock struck 12, then the Angelus. At the same moment, the trumpets of the Prussians returning from drill sounded under our windows. M. Hamel stood up, very pale in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. And then church clock was 12, and at the same time the Angelus also rang. Angelus is the church bell. And then the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers, which was indicating that they were returning from the drill. And M. Hamel, he stood up. He was looking very pale, very tall, and he says that he has never seen him so tall ever. My friends, said he. I. But something choked him. He could not go on. Then he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and beating on with all his might, he wrote as large as he could, Vive la France. Then he stopped and leaned his head against the wall, and without a word he made a gesture to us with his hand. School is dismissed. You may go. Okay. Now he stood up and he just wanted to address them, but it was like he was emotionally choked. He could not speak anything. So he turned towards the blackboard. He took a piece of chalk, and then he started writing on it in very bold, as much big as he can. And you know what he wrote over there? He wrote Vive la France. In French only he wrote. It means long live France. Then, without saying anything to them, he leaned his head against the wall, looked towards them, and with his hand he made a gesture that the school is off. They can go. And then he said, School is dismissed. You may go. And the last lesson came to an end. So, my dear students, in this chapter, you have to be very particular about who is the author, and at what time this lesson was written, what was the time period, then what is the theme which tells us that what you have to understand the importance of it in time. Then Franz, his various experiences, M. Hamel, what the lesson conveys to us. And I'm not discussing the questions with you people, that I had already done in my video, the last video of the last lesson. So if any of those things are there, you may please go through those videos, and my humble request is to you people that please study it carefully, read the lesson again and again. So till I take the next lesson, reading of it, take care, goodbye.